Hi, I'm George Callis, the host of This Sea Ranch Life and Mendonoma Connect. I'd like to take a few moments of your time if I could. Here on the Mendonoma coast, when you have a medical emergency and you dial 911, who shows up? Who shows up is an ambulance from Coast Life Support District. CLSD services 500 square miles of coast, and that includes Irish Beach, Manchester, Point Arena, Anchor Bay, Gualala, Sea Ranch, Annapolis, Timber Cove, Fort Ross, and our inland neighbors. CLSD responds to over 1,000 calls per year, and they assess medical emergencies, provide treatment, and transport patients to the appropriate hospital. Now, the majority of patients are on Medicare or Medi-Cal, but those programs only pay about 30% of the cost of ambulance service. Similarly, private insurance covers only about 60% of an ambulance trip. The balance is paid for by an emergency medical service tax. Since 2018, CLSD call volume has doubled, but the costs have likewise increased. That's why CLSD is asking you, the voters, to support Measure D this November. Under Measure D, most homeowners would pay an additional $120 per year on their emergency medical service tax. That's just 33 cents a day. When seconds count and there's a sick child or a senior citizen who's fallen or a family member suffering a heart attack or a vehicular accident, CLSD gets there first with the emergency medical care needed. That's why I'm asking every voter to support CLSD and vote yes on Measure D. Now, Mendonoma Connect will continue in a conversation with CLSD Chief Bronwyn Ghali. Joining us on This Sea Ranch Life, and today we're not just talking about Sea Ranch today, we're talking about the entire Sonoma and Mendocino coast, what we often refer to as the Mendonoma coast. And our guest today is Bronwyn Ghali. Bronwyn is the chief of the Coast Life Support District. And folks, maybe you're saying, I never heard of the Coast Life Support District. We refer to it as CLSD. But the nuts and bolts is that's how an ambulance gets to your house when you need it. And Chief Ghali is going to talk to us a little bit about that. Welcome, Chief. Thanks for joining us today.
Well, George, thank you very much for having me. So, yes, Bronwyn Ghali with Coast Life Support District. I am the chief of this district, and Coast Life Support District was founded 40 years ago this month to provide advanced life support ambulance service to the Mendonoma coast. So, our district goes from Irish Beach down to Fort Ross and about 17 miles inland.
That's a
It
that's a pretty good that's a pretty big service area. That's like what, 400 or 500 square miles or something like that?
Yep, it's 50 miles of the coast, so
Mm-hmm.
25 miles down in Sonoma County and 25 miles north in Mendocino County.
Yeah.
I was looking at an article recently from an old ICO that the discussion of ambulance services in this area started in 1974.
Wow.
And it took
Okay.
until 1986, an act of the legislature, to create this bi-county district. So from 1986, we've had an ambulance service that covers this area. And I know there's people that can remember before when it was the Hornsby ambulance that used to be a mortuary service out of Point
Okay.
Arena.
Okay. And
And
they double as ambulance when they weren't doing a
they
funeral.
they did. I think that's happened a
A
lot
little,
around the country.
yeah, a little ironic there, actually.
So there's a lot of sort of future thinking that happened that created this ambulance district. We are very, very blessed that we have these fire protection districts that support us with their first responders and their BLS care. BLS is basic life support. It's EMTs. It's the first interventions that happen in an emergency medical area. And then what the ambulance brings is both an EMT, that BLS care, as well as a paramedic, an advanced life support or ALS care. And advanced life support is it's cardiac monitoring, it's medications, it's being able to put a needle in someone's chest in order to let the air out if it has a traumatic incident. Um, And we do have the longest transport in the state. So if, I mean, everyone who's listening, you know how long it takes to get to Santa Rosa. You know, it takes 2 hours depending on traffic. And that's a long time to be having a medical emergency, and to go by car. And
Yeah.
so you want those, you know, you want that advanced life support to be able to care for you and get you stable to the hospital where they can do the definitive care.
Yeah. Also, it's not just I may call in and someone in my family is having chest pains and I'm thinking heart attack and I'm going to call 911. Tell them that
Absolutely.
and they're going to connect me to you and that means you and an ambulance EMTs will come to my location. But there's other things. I've read some of your stats lately. We have a high degree of falls, which for an aging population, falls can be life-threatening. Is that not correct?
Absolutely. Falls
Yeah,
are one of our main calls that we go to. They can be a mechanical fall, which is the most common, you know, whether it's a rug that you've tripped on or a gopher hole. Um, Mechanical fall can be detrimental. It depends if, as we age, and our cardiac world changes, we might have atrial fibrillation, so we then might be on a blood thinner. And if you fall and hit your head, even if you don't lose consciousness, that impact can cause a small head bleed, which can be very complicated. Or you can
yeah,
fall and trip and break your hip, and that limits your mobility. And out here, you know, mobility is everything.
yeah, absolutely. And then at the extreme end, when there's, I'm sorry to say, traffic accidents and someone's injured,
Mhm.
you all show up for that too, is that correct?
We do. So every time 911 is called for a rescue, a medical aid, we do fire standby. So if there's a structure fire in any of our communities, we will go and do fire standby, both for anyone who might be impacted by the fire, but also for the firefighters themselves, and to do, you know, rehab and make sure that they are safe and able to keep doing their job. Water rescues, traffic accidents, cliff rescues, search and rescue. We are involved in pretty much any EMS or medical or fire incident, along
Yeah,
with the fire departments.
yeah. You guys are pretty busy. About how many times, let's just say about how many times a year does an ambulance and your EMTs and you have to show up somewhere as a result of a call? Is it, you know?
We're getting dispatched an average of 1,000 times a year.
That's pretty busy. That may 1,000 times a year. That's 80 or 90. That's maybe 3 calls a day, possibly on average. I'm just doing the
Yeah,
math in my head. But the difficulty is those calls can be anything.
they can be anything. They can be something, I mean, as you mentioned earlier about having chest pain. You know, you have chest pain, you call 911, the ambulance shows up,
Yeah,
and our paramedics come in and they connect you to the cardiac monitor and they do a full 12 lead. They take look at, you know, 12 different pictures of your heart and say, you know, hey, based on your blood pressure, your complaint, and what we're seeing on the 12 lead monitor, we don't think it's cardiac. We don't know why it's happening, but you know, we'd like to take you to the hospital, get it ruled out. But we also
yeah,
could say, you know, it could be musculoskeletal, and you don't, you know, actually need to go to the hospital. And we, you know, we're just as happy to not take you as we are to take you.
right.
If it, you know, because it is a long trip and it is a huge, you know, imposition on someone who might not have someone to drive them back from the hospital. So,
Yeah,
um, or we take a look at
yeah,
your heart and say, wow, you are having a cardiac event, and we're going to get a helicopter, and fly you out. But as you know, sometimes that doesn't happen, whether it's fog,
yeah.
or storms or other issues, we can't get a helicopter. So we end up taking that cardiac event 2 hours down. And
Right.
I can, you know, reference quite a few different stories where we had one gentleman who went into a full heart attack, as we were taking him code 3 down to Santa Rosa at the Sea Ranch Lodge, and we were able to shock him and bring him back. We ended up shocking him 25 times before we got to Sutter. He would,
On the road between the Sea Ranch Lodge and Santa Rosa,
yep.
you had to do that procedure 25 times.
We shocked him 25 times and
Wow.
he would wake up and he'd look at us and he'd say, "What's going on?" And then we'd watch the cardiac monitor. It would be in a normal sinus rhythm, and then we would watch it go back into ventricular fibrillation, which means the heart is beating too fast and unorganized to provide blood flow to the body. And so we'd shock him and it would knock that out and he'd watch it come back normal, and then he would go, and that repeated for 25 times until we got him down to Sutter. And at
This,
Sutter, he was shocked another 25 times before they got him into the cath lab, and he was released 2 days later.
wow. So, this points out, this is a very good example of why I shouldn't take a family member and say, well, I got my car, I'll drive you over to Santa Rosa myself. Because I don't know what's going to happen on the road that me, as a non-medical person, I couldn't do a thing for somebody.
No, I mean, there are times where we absolutely, we are happy to come out and assess you and say, yeah, I think you're absolutely, safe to go in a car. And,
Okay.
maybe you've twisted your ankle or you
Yeah.
need some support, and if we can offer that, we're going to. And if it's better for you to drive in the car, then we have no problem with that, because it's the right thing to do for our community members. But the other
Hmm.
one is saying, no, you have a cardiac event, and or you're having one, we really would like you to come with us, for
Yeah.
these reasons, and we will work through whatever happens afterwards, but you need to come by ambulance because, again, if you go down, while we do have, these amazing fire departments in our district, and all the way down to Santa Rosa, you might not have cell service. The call
Yeah.
box might have been vandalized, and you're delaying that care,
Right.
of people getting to you, and especially if it's stormy. So we
Yeah.
will come out and we are more than happy to give a full assessment and say, you're right. You do not need to go by ambulance. You still do need to get checked out and, take this information with you. Um, and, but otherwise, it's better to come with us for these
Yeah.
reasons.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. Talk to me a little bit about, as a district, a defined geographic district, defined under state law. You are a district.
Hmm.
That means you get to spend the money. Money comes in from the state and
Hmm.
from a variety of places that comes in, and that's how you purchase equipment and train people and frankly hire people and everything. So, I'm just figuring, I'm just Joe Citizen. I'm figuring, well, it's the ambulance people. Boy,
Hmm.
they have plenty of money because
Oh
everybody
boy.
knows we got to have ambulances. So money's no problem over there. Tell me why that's not true.
Well, first off, and I would say across the nation, that EMS is the least funded of the medical services
Let let's remind our viewers here, EMS means emergency medical
Medical
services.
service. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
So, especially public services. So we are a public agency.
Right.
We are not fire-based. Most public agency ambulances are going to be fire-based. So in a lot of urban settings, you have,
Yeah.
San
Meaning
Francisco Fire.
they're a part of the fire department. That's
Correct.
who
They're
the
still a
fire
public
department has. Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah. And so they're
Yeah.
still a public agency. We are one of the few, that are purely a public agency dedicated to EMS.
Yeah.
And so, but traditionally and across the nation, EMS, is the least funded and the least reimbursed, especially through Medicare, which drives everything in our healthcare service, from
Yeah.
top to bottom.
Yeah.
But we get reimbursed about $200 to $300 from Medicare, for a transport to if we take you all the way to town.
Correct me here if I'm wrong, but I don't know that $200 to $300 covers the true
No.
cost of an ambulance ride, does it?
No, and that's where, this the when people came up with the idea and said we need to have an ambulance, we have this amazing community where we love where we live. We're in this beautiful area, but the next closest ambulance is either from Guerneville or Bodega Bay or from Fort Bragg.
Mhm.
So we need to have an
Yeah.
ambulance in our community. And
Yeah.
the only way to do it, to keep it sustainable, was to create the special district, which then allowed us to levy, a assessment on everyone's parcels. And that assessment is
Right.
the same for both Mendocino and Sonoma County. It's everyone within our district
Right.
is rated at the same. So it's
Yeah.
not on the value of the property. But in
Right.
So we exist because of that levy. We get about
Right.
we get about $1 million from ambulance billing.
Okay.
Um, and that's why a for-profit would not work. There's no private ambulance that would come and cover our area because $1 million, while it sounds big, and it
Yeah.
really did to me before I got into this position,
Yeah.
and you start looking at what it costs, just in order to staff one ambulance, 24/7 with a paramedic and an EMT, $1 million isn't going to cover that.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
we have two fully staffed ambulances. We have two ambulances with a paramedic and an EMT each, 24/7, because what we found back 6 years ago is we were running into, because if we take someone to Santa Rosa, from the time
Yeah.
of dispatch to going to the scene, getting the patient settled, and taking them all the way to Santa Rosa and then returning, you're looking at 5 to 7 hours of that ambulance not being available.
Yeah.
And our call volume was increasing. So we were then, our district is uncovered. We were
Yeah.
relying on Fort Bragg and Guerneville to come support us, which isn't fair to those communities. And it isn't
Right.
fair to our district because you're waiting 60 minutes to over an hour for an
Yeah.
ambulance. And so we staffed that second ambulance in order to keep our district covered while the other one is transporting.
But even today, at this very moment, in the presence, um, things are still tight for
Things that
CLSD. There's a lot of things you could do, but there's not money for it, and that's why viewers, if you're not aware, you're going to be that there's a measure on the ballot that would increase the parcel tax, which has the chief just mentioned to us. The parcel tax actually appears on your property tax
Mhm.
bill, but it's not based on the value of your house. It's per parcel, per
Correct.
per piece of ground to
Yeah,
simplify the whole thing. And so we're looking at the voters are going to get to make a choice
correct.
about whether to increase funding
So
to you all.
we're going to the voters and asking them to increase the funding on average, um, about $120. So
Uh-huh.
right now, a single family home would be $183, and we're looking to increase that by 120. So we're looking at $303 for a single family home, which is still
Right.
less than $1 a day to have two fully staffed ambulances covering this district.
Well, and it's important to remember, as you and I both know, there's a number of homes up and down the coast that people don't live. It's not their primary residence, and
Correct.
they might rent it out. They might be vacation rentals. They might be anything, but Coast Life Support District shows up whether you're a permanent resident here or you're just here for a weekend. You guys still show up,
We do still show
re-
up, and
regardless.
we still show up regardless. You call 911 and we will respond.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and we do offer discounts to our residents because we acknowledge that our residents are the ones that are paying to have our ambulance here. So
right.
if we do show up at your house and you've stepped in a gopher hole and twisted your ankle, um, and we say, yep, you're right, you should probably go get some x-rays, but you don't need to come with us.
Hmm.
Let's help get you to your car and talk about the best
Yeah,
treatment
yeah.
plan for you, and you drive away. We won't charge for that.
Wow. Okay.
Again, if you are not a resident, then we will.
Yeah, yeah,
Because we acknowledge, wholeheartedly that we can only be here because of the residents in our
yeah.
district.
Sounds
Um,
sounds to me, Chief, like you're trying to be frugal with the dollars you have, you know, but it's at a point where uh, there needs to because Medicare doesn't fully reimburse, and there's a lot of other uh, 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 structural complications in how you get funded. We're at a point where there just needs to be some additional money. That's the point of this
yeah.
measure.
So
Yeah,
and to give us longevity, to really
yeah,
say, like, we need the support now so that we can continue serving the community as well as we would, that it we want to plan for the future so that we don't
Yeah.
come and ask you again for, quite a while. We
Yeah.
want to,
Yeah.
set ourselves up to be able to care for this district for, many years to come without coming and asking for money every 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
And, so the areas that that we need the support for besides just generally propping us up is looking at staffing. So right
Yeah.
now, we're very fortunate with the paramedics and the EMTs that we have, but our rate, what we pay, is below sort of the market at the moment.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we need to also get people that are want to come, drive 2 to 3 hours to
Mm-hmm.
come work up here, but also are have the experience and the confidence to work in an area where they are the only paramedic, and that they are taking that person 2 hours to the hospital, and they have
Yeah.
to trust their
Yeah.
skills and they have to be confident enough to do that. And so we're not really competitive with our rates, as
Okay.
well as, like for everyone, the cost of living has gone through the roof. So right now,
Right.
our ambulances, we have one ambulance that's 11 years old. It has 240,000 miles on it.
Whoa.
Um, and the rest of them, are similar up there in age and mileage. But
Yeah.
to buy a new ambulance is looking at 200 to $400,000, depending
Yeah.
on, what we're looking at. And if we're looking at something that we're like, okay, we're going to invest $400,000, it has to last us for 10 years.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Um, so those are the
Yeah.
two areas, and our infrastructure. We are very
Yeah.
fortunate that in 2000, there was a community member that donated this piece of land to us, right
Mm-hmm.
here, we're right across from our CMS, and we were able to build a station um, that can house, 4 people and 3 ambulances 24/7. But it needs a new roof. It needs, our parking lot is disintegrating. I mean, the list can go on
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
the
Yeah. Yeah.
infrastructure needs. And so those are our big, um, what we're looking at. And I would also like to mention, George, I know um, is people are going to see two things when they look at their property tax. They're going to see Coast
Okay.
Life Support Ambulance,
Yeah.
and that is what is going to the voters in November. You're also going to
Okay.
see Coast Life Support Urgent Care. And because we are a taxing authority,
Mm-hmm.
um, we uh, worked with RCMS many, many
Right.
years ago to say, how can we support urgent care services in our district?
Right.
And because we're a taxing authority, um, we were able to go to the voters and create another parcel tax that specifically goes to funding urgent care services. Because again,
Right.
not every transport needs to go off the coast. And if you have a urgent care center, you can really
Right.
treat a lot of people locally.
Yeah. So some of that
Um,
funding ends up reimbursing RCMS for urgent
Right.
care. Isn't that
So
correct?
we
Yeah.
have, yeah, so we have a contract with our CMS. We're halfway through a 5-year contract
Mm.
to support urgent care services. So that money, we are a pass through, and that money
Yeah.
goes then directly to our CMS. So that is not what that's not going to be on the ballot
Right.
in November. It's purely just to support the ambulance service. But
Yeah.
just so people understand, that
Right.
they will see that on their property taxes, and we
Yeah.
do work very closely with RCMS in order to support healthcare services and urgent care.
Yeah. Well, Chief, this has been very informative. There's a lot of moving parts to this, but I hope our viewers can take away that number one, CLSD provides this absolutely essential service. We would just be hours away from a major hospital, and it would be difficult. It would be nearly impossible for people to
Yeah.
get medical care in an emergency uh, situation. And I think also too, I would say second, I would say that after 40 years, you've got a pretty well-oiled machine going on there. You got a lot of you've got a lot of expertise. Um, you do have 2 ambulances. Yeah, it'd be nice to have one less than 11 years old. Um, but we'll work on that in the future.
Yeah.
And the reality is that to keep this service sustainable and to be ready for the future, uh, additional funding is the only way. Uh, that's my opinion anyway. You
Well,
know?
I appreciate that, and I agree with you. And
Yeah,
I had a conversation with someone that talked about, well, that's a really poor business model, and it's I just wanted to remind everyone we're a service.
yeah,
We're here to provide a service because it absolutely, I mean, that's why we wouldn't have an ambulance for $1 million a year. No private
yeah.
ambulance is going to come up here,
Right,
and we
right.
have the benefit of the support of the community to be here to support them, and
Yeah.
that's 100% our mission.
And the reality is special districts were created under California law, and we have special districts for all kinds of services that
Yep.
we require, not the least of those which are ambulance services, but also our fire districts and sanitation
Hmm.
district. We've got
Yep.
districts for a number of
School
things.
districts,
School
it's
districts,
yeah.
that's all, that's how our legal system is built, and it, maybe it's not the perfect business model, but it's the one we can do under the law, and we all got to make it work. Yeah,
Absolutely.
cool.
Absolutely.
Well, to our audience, we've been listening to Chief Bronwyn Ghali, who's the chief of the Coast Life Support District, our local ambulance service and provider of emergency medical service up and down the coast, 50 miles of our coast and a bunch inland, around 500 square miles or so. And she's been kind enough to give us a lot of really good information for folks that maybe didn't know much about it. And then she's given us some of the background on why this parcel tax increase is going to be on the November ballot. Chief, thanks so much for giving us your time and this really good information.
Well, again, George, thank you very much for making time to have me on here. And for everyone, I am more than happy to talk about the ambulance anytime. So if you see me around the community, please come chat with me.
Yeah, and I think I'm correct in saying if people want more details on CLSD or the parcel tax measure that's on the ballot, they can go to the CLSD.org website and
Dot,
get a lot of information there.
yep, it's clsd.ca.gov.
I'm sorry, excuse me.
Yep,
Yeah, ca.gov. That is because
with
you're a
government
state,
agency.
you're a government agency. I'm sorry, I had that wrong. So viewers, feel
No,
free to go to that and get even more detailed information if you'd like.
no,
In the
and I will.
meantime, I'm sorry.
And sorry, keep going, George.
No, no, no.
I
You
was going to say,
please.
and I don't know when this is airing, but we are hosting another blood drive on August 11th.
Okay, that's great. Okay, thank you very much.
Again, I don't know when it's
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
when you're airing it. So,
yeah, yeah. Well, thank you very much for your time, and thanks for the great work you and your staff are doing out there every day. Excuse me, every day and night for all of us here. Thanks so
and
much.
George, thank you very much. I appreciate it.